Welcome back to Force Education. This is Ed. Today we're talking once more about Mullen, going with the ticker MULN. I did cover it before, but today we have some additional information that I do want to go over and technical analysis. So if you never heard about Mullen, so Mullen is trying to go for that premium automotive retail that kind of tries to rival Tesla. And I did do a comparison between the 5 and the Model Y for Tesla, and it comes almost very close to one another, on par. Now, the question is coming in terms of the bottom line cost of running it, and as well the additional charges going on towards maintaining the vehicles. That comes in after the vehicles are delivered, and then we get to understand a little bit of the longer aspect. Let's say in 5 years, how much does it cost to own a Mullen versus a Model Y? But for the time being, we see that they are very much in comparison. Both of them kind of have a really nice, sleek look. Almost very comparable to one another. So if I seen a Mullen on the road, I might see basically another Tesla beside it and say, hey, they look like they're from the same manufacturer, if I didn't know Tesla or Mullen existed. But anyway, you see what they're going for. So Mullen here is defined as a Southern California-based automotive company that owns a partnership or owns and partners with several synergetic businesses working towards a unified goal of creating clean and scalable energy solutions and electrical vehicles. And they were publicly traded starting on November 5th, 2021. And they basically, in terms of manufacturing, they're basically based on entirely in the US into the state-of-the-art production facilities across the country. Now, the price point of this started around $10, as almost all SPACs do, or new IPOs generally do. And then it dropped down to around $713, pushed forward at the end of the year to around $15.90, and last time I made a video on it, it was around 50 cents or so. And ever since then, you see massive amount of volume and attention since my last video. And so we're going to update today with technical analysis and get to basically try to see where is the next resistance that we might see, as we already see it starting to maybe curve up, but it's definitely stabilizing from that downtrend. And I do anticipate that that downtrend is actually broken at the current time being, but we need to take a look into technical analysis to decide that. Now, from news, there is one piece of news on the 24th of February. It says Mullen Automotive featured by Words Auto, company's hybrid retail model, EV manufacturing, and battery tech highlighted. So if we read a bit of that news itself, and this one is talking a little bit about the Christy Schweinberg from industry-leading publication Words Auto recently visited Mullen Automotive and interviewed the top Mullen executive who discussed the company's innovative hybrid and retail model and 5 EV crossover, manufacturing plans, battery technology, and more. I understand that this is a crossover, but and I compared it to the Model Y, but in terms of performance, it does seem to be on par, even though this is a crossover SUV. But right now, we're able to see basically a bit more information kind of about this interview, and you're able to find as well transcript for the interview offsite, but it just basically tells you that there is more coverage onto this one, and more coverage is amazing for EV. Now, there are other news, for instance, that they shared back onto the 17th of February and issued a letter to shareholders, and I did cover that in the last video, so we're going to skip into that. And if you do remember, there was some recent highlights and accomplishments that I did cover before. For instance, Mullen is on track to deliver the first EV cargo van fleet in the Q2. And in terms of the 5 vehicle, they're due to arrive in late 2022 for the high-performance version, and a national test drive event on Mullen front row reservation holders to be announced for a future date. And Mullen has also successfully filed over 120 patents, where the world debut of Mullen 5 is planned to, or had happened on November 17th, 2021 at the LA Auto Show. Now, before moving on towards technical analysis and fundamentals, someone at me on Twitter, and they basically shared this one. So market at the MC here is $20 million is what they're showing. We can try to go in and verify. So market cap is around a bit more. Perhaps this was made a little bit before the bit of the jump from 0.52 to 0.69. Currently it's around 26.85 million. And they received 40 million in venture or VC funding in the last 60 days. We're able to confirm that. I don't think if it's actually in the institutional buyers, But sure, I do expect that there's a lot of money from VCs coming in anyway. Institutional buyers were able to see that there is some buying here. There is some interest from institutions, so it is plausible. And they own 124K SF factory fully paid, and was $12 just 3 months ago, now 0.57. Well, it's not only naked shorting, by the way, but basically as well, people, with the market has been sliding, SPACs have been taking a beating, and people tend to sell things that are not hot anymore, or not having trust with institutions the same, because we're able to see in short selling, it's 650,000 shares available at 4.25%, with the max being 11.42. And yes, around half of all volumes are going to the short side, but it's not as heavily shorted as some people might appear it to be, because the short interest overall, or the short ratio for instance, is 0.12. And if you look here, the short interest as a percentage float is 4.97. But sure, naked shorting could be a part of it, but overall it is not the main part of it. Rather, it is just selling of shares in the market. It's just being stupid. EV cargo cargo vans are rolling out in Q2. Yep. MULN 5 SUV won an award in 2021. Blah blah blah. The same thing, basically. Latest EV market study ranked MULN up there with Tesla, and I did cover that in my last video where they compared it in the slides. Now, moving on towards institutional buyers and insiders. So this is first here. This is insiders, and we get to see that insiders overall, they don't have any activities in February so far. In January, they have awards. They did sell once, and that was a small amount of money that was sold, but it's basically nothing to be worried about. In terms of institutions, you're able to see that USA Holdings liquidated 211,000 shares. Alt Global Holdings on the 14th liquidated around 6.42% of their shares. They currently hold 2.4 million shares. That could be out of basically the market tumbling a little, and they're basically removing any kind of shares that might be considered excessive above a threshold. But for instance, on the same time, you're able to see Morgan Stanley actually added around a little bit of shares, but they increased their position by 364%. And Alpine, for instance, 25,000. Sequina International, 81,000. You're able to see Citra Advisor all on the same day, 219.7 thousand shares. And there are a few back and forth, but generally it's positive addition of shares. Now, again, we did talk about short selling, but before moving on towards technical analysis, if you would like to see more contents like this, make sure to click the subscribe button and leave notification buttons on for the channel. And don't forget to drop a like to this video if you enjoyed this video so far, and let's move on towards technical analysis. Now, from a technical analysis perspective for MULN, we start actually to get to see is that the willing percent R has been hitting from highly oversold, where there's a lot more supply than there is a demand, and the demand started growing. It's still oversold. That means more supply than there is demand, but it's starting to push back, and you're seeing like something from around -99 to around -86 on the willing percent R, which is very similar to the willing percent R, or sorry, RSI as well. And so MACD, it's attempting a positive reversal, and momentum is actually improving. Still negative on both, on the MACD and momentum, but they're both going towards the positive side, and it really starts to showcase that this can easily start bouncing into a reversal. You're also seeing it touch the 10 SMA. It's a good sign, and we're starting to see a bit of a pulse into this one. Both stochastic fast and stochastic slow are pointing upwards, suggesting that this might be a good time for a push upwards and a bit of a rally. The moving averages are starting to stabilize just a little, still going on the negative side, but they are attempting to still push a little bit into at least a neutral side. Volumes have spiked a lot, and unbalanced volume have shown that there is more buying power than what was seen in the previous days. Now, on Fibonacci retracements, we're able to see a resistance at 413, 639, 820, 1002, and 1261, with a support at 50 cents. But what we're seeing here is a little bit of hard supports. So we have a few, such as on the 67 currently, and then below that 59 and 52. Resistances, there is a hard one at 80 cents and 85 cents. Above there, it's around 103. And then above there, it does basically go on every candle, but the very solid one would be 286, 327, 363 and then higher to 402, and it does keep going higher. So for instance, a 502 and then 601 and then 641 and then higher to 753 and up to 893. Now the downtrend that we've been talking about. So this downtrend right around here, and you're able to see that it basically did kind of break apart in the last few days as a downtrend on the 22nd of February started to break apart and stabilize. And that shows that it is easily going on towards a positive reversal or at least a bounce. Hopefully that is the case and not having it basically stabilize a little and then drop. Only time can tell about this one. If you do have the downtrend a little bit further downwards to something like this, and in all technicality, you are still in that downtrend, and hopefully that is not the case. Now, what do you think is going to happen here? Make sure to down in the comments below. Share, subscribe, and like, and have a wonderful day.